Right guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm back working on the Turbo MX5. If you've seen my last videos or last few videos about the MX5, built the car, put it all together, and within a couple of days I went to a Coolant track day. That all went okay. Then I went to a Western Zoyland drift day, which is a local drift day to me. I've now booked another track day at Coolant. However, yeah, the car is definitely going to struggle heat-wise with the cooling. So I want to talk you through the standard coolant system on the MX5 and what I'm going to do to try and improve that, mainly using the Coolant Reroute. If you don't know anything about coolant reroutes or why people do that on turbo and supercharged MX5, you can Google it. There's absolutely loads of it out there. But I'm just going to give you a very quick rundown of what you need to do. And then I'm going to show you how I'm going to try and make a DIY kit just to try and make it as cheap and easy as possible. So here we go. So to give you a very quick rundown, you have the thermostat housing on the front here with the top hose going into the rad. Obviously this is an aftermarket alley rad, but mine has been moved back because I'm running the high mount intercooler. Down there you can see the other yellow hose. That is the inlet from the radiator into the water pump. So essentially that's how it flows. And then at the back of the engine here, this might be different to your car because you might be running the standard cool packs and they'll be basically bolted sort of here where my hand is. But because I'm coil on plug, that gets rid of a lot of the stuff like that. So if you look at that grey plug and that heater hose is all that's attached to that rear housing there. Basically when you first start the car, or when it's even warming up, even if it's sort of been warm before and you come back to it, what you'll see is a temperature gauge, especially if you're running something like I'm running Real Dash, so I can read the temperatures that the ECU are seeing. I've got a little phone in there. I'll try and put up a little video now from the last time I went drifting because it shows. I'll try and zoom in to the phone to show the temperatures. You'll watch and when you first give it some, whether you're drifting on a track day or whatever, the coolant temperatures will go flying up. They'll get to like, I don't know, say yeah, 115, 120. I think 117 was around the highest I saw. I'll double check, you'll see in the video. But basically it shoots up, then when the thermostat fully opens, it then drops back down to like normal, sort of like 90, 97, 98, whatever, under 100. To do what the Coolant Reroute does, moves this front, the thermostat, and this pipe work goes to the back, so it connects to there where the temperature sensor is, and then runs down here and then joins here. So essentially you're making, like, rather than going in the bottom and then coming up and out here, it goes in the bottom, then goes through the engine, comes out the back and then back to the rad, and that evens it out massively. I had a Skid Nation Coolant Reroute on my black Turbo MX5 that I drifted. Yeah, that made a massive difference. So that's one thing. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Now I'm making a DIY kit. You can buy kits off Bofi or Skid Nation or whatever for a couple £100. You can probably pick up a second-hand one. I think this kit I bought for my black MX5 was about £100 second-hand, and it comes with like a little aluminium spacer adapter which allows you to put, because when you put that front housing on the back, which is what I'm going to do, it doesn't have anywhere where the sensors can go, and you don't want to put the sensors from the back to the front of the engine because then you're only reading the temperature at the front. So I'm going to show you how we're going to get around that in a minute. But on most of the kits, what they do is to keep the heater hose in the same place, they give you like a little, about, I don't know, 50 mil adapter, which is enough to keep the coolant temperature sensor and a little pipe, like a little barbed pipe, that then goes over so you can reuse this pipe here. That's the best way about it. If you don't want to faff around, buy a kit like that and just bang it on. Make sure you put a good bit of sealant around each of the joins, and yeah, job's good, and that'll work fine. But what I'm going to do, I've bought a hose that's sort of the right length to go in here, and what I'm essentially going to do is I'm going to try and fit that front housing with that thermostat to the back of the engine, because it's the same bolt pattern, and then stick that rear housing on the front. And then the only thing you have to do then is, because the heater pipe no longer goes to the back of the engine, you then have to run another pipe down the front here to join it up. So that's the plan. And then at the back of the engine, when I just said about a temperature sensor, what you can do is there's a little bung, I'll show you in a minute, and that bung can be taken out and you can screw the temperature sensor directly in there, and then you can use the bung in the housing that you've taken off to put on the front, so that you don't get any, don't get any leaks or anything. So that's the plan. Obviously, yeah, the difference between mine then is, because I'm still using the housing down here to allow the pipe to join, I won't be blanking this end off. Whereas when you get a reroute kit, normally, because it's got the adapter, that adapter I was talking about at the back, which allows you to fit the coolant hose to the heater and allows you to put the temperature sensor directly into it, that means you don't even need this anymore. So you basically just bolt a blank on here. Some people even take the whole neck out and put like a bung inside behind like the cam belt cover or whatever. That's up to you. So yeah, I'm going to crack on, have a little go in. I've only got 2 weeks until the track day, so I'm hoping I can get this to work nice. Right, so loosen both of these Jubilee clips. Got a drain bucket underneath. Right, so now I've got the two 12 mils. One's a nut and one's a bolt. So yeah, one bolt like that, one nut like that. Give this a hello there. So yeah, there's this thermostat. It's obviously got standard gasket or gasket on there, which we're now going to try and fit on the back, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I'll put that to one side. So the plan now is to remove this hose from up here, because it's easier than trying to get to that clamp down there, and I'll take the whole hose off then. I managed to forget my chesty mount again. I need to make sure I keep that with me. I'm doing these sorts of jobs. Get the old pry bar in there. Give it a big one. Oh yeah, there we go. Look. Lovely jobby. Oh, I made a mess though. Next, I got to take off this bad boy down here. I'm going to struggle to video this, so I'm going to just take it off, put it on the bench, and then I can show you the difference between the front and the rears. We've got all the bits off that we need to remove. So that is the housing from the back. That's the coolant temperature sensor. This is the bung. So this bung here is right next to, when that's, I think it's sat like, yeah, sat like that in the back of the engine, sort of sideways. This bung literally lives right there. That just goes into like some other sort of coolant housing that's next to it. So the plan is to remove that sensor and put that bung in its place, and then put that sensor where that bung was. So I'm still getting a reading from the back of the engine temperature wise, but then because this part here is now going to be moved and fitted to the front here, something like that, but obviously not with a coolant hose sat at that angle. And then what I'm going to have to do is make some sort of pipe work that goes across and then goes onto this here. But that means the heater will still be flowing before the thermostat opens, and then this part here, which is on the front, is then going to be mounted on the back. I need to clean up all like the gasket and stuff that's back there at the moment, but this is going to be mounted. It's exactly the same as the front, where it's got one stud on one. It's a bit awkward to see. There we go. So like that. If I show you the, if I do the blue Peter, show you one I prepared earlier. Cha-ching! So that there is a pipe I just bought off. I think it was off eBay or something. But you don't need to buy this exact pipe. You could, if you wanted to, you could even use this. You could reuse that and probably put that at the back, and then just get some other random hose. I think there's a video on YouTube of an old one on a Mark 1 MX5 where a bloke uses like a bit of vacuum cleaner pipe and then puts like an elbow on the end. So yeah, it's definitely doable. Obviously ignore, for you, if you've got your rad in the normal position, it won't be as close, like that pipe is very close to my boost pipe there, but that's not standard. You know, yours will be back here somewhere, so you have loads of room. Right, let's see if this this sensor wants to come out of here. It's a 19mm. If you see there now, take that sensor there out, and that one there, oh, I need to get the washer off of the, still on the back of the engine. But yeah, that one's just going to screw in. It's going to screw in lovely. Right, so I've just cleaned up this housing on the wire wheel. I'm going to use this lovely little blade here and scrape off some of the old gasket. Bit of emery tape now. Right, so got some of the world's finest RTV silicone. Now you could flip it the other way if you really wanted to, and have it go out the bottom and come round, but I don't really fancy that. I think it's better this way. Now I put quite a thick bit of silicone here because if you remember in behind, the thermostat used to sit in there, so there's a bit of a gap where the thermostat lip was. It's not very big, but I don't want it leaking. Right, so I've cleaned up back here as best I can. You can also see I've fitted the temperature sensor here, which is where the bung was before. So that's the bung that I've swapped into here. This bung here was where I've now screwed the sensor in, where my finger is here. So yeah, that is super handy that fits in there. So you can use the same washer for both that you took out. Right, so it's going well. Front housing's on, like I showed you earlier, and now I've got the rear housing on, as you can see down there. I don't know where you can see that. So you've got the rear housing, and then like I said earlier, I've got the original coolant temperature sensor is now next to it and plugged in. Just going to let that set, and then tomorrow I can start having a look at this pipe work here and see what I can make up. Right guys, apologies, I've cracked on a bit with the car. I've basically got about 4 or 5 days until I'm off to Coombe, but I have pretty much got the reroute finished. So the main big pipe from the back, so I ended up using the original pipe that went across from there, fitting a joiner, which I actually ordered a proper brass joiner, which is over here, one of these. Unfortunately, for some reason it slips in nice into the yellow pipe, but it was sort of still a bit loose. I think it's because of the way I cut the pipe was slightly on a corner, so it was slightly bigger diameter. So I ended up using a bit of a bodge, ended up using a bit of pipe like this, which was like a tight fit into both, and then cutting down a piece of steel like this to go in the pipe like that. So basically it wouldn't collapse when I screwed it up, and that is currently what's in there. I am going to probably change that, but I'm not going to change it before the track day because I've got a few other bits and bobs to do, and I want to make sure the car runs and everything as it is now. Whilst I had that all off, I've stuck an aircon fan on. That aircon fan is to be switched in the ME ECU. Just stuck some normal 16mm heat hose around there. And then what I did was I originally had that going straight into the top of the thermostat housing there, but it was on like a bit of a bend, and I thought maybe it wouldn't be very good, especially if it was like, it sort of was touching the top of the bonnet and stuff. So bought a nice 90-degree elbow, and I can cut that down a little bit more if I need to, but what I've done is I've bought one of these nice inline bleeders. So even though if you look from here, it probably is the highest point of the car coolant wise, so you can just undo this lovely little brass fitting, bleed out a bit of the air. Yeah, that seems to be working good. I did do a very crude job of wrapping some foil around this other coolant pipe here. I've always thought that this pipe is quite close to this bit of exhaust and could melt. So yeah, I've just wrapped that on there because I know it's going to be very hot next week. Eventually I'll get one of those heat shield, like the jackets that you can get. I think they're like I know Funk Motorsport and a few other people do them, and they just slide over the top. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I think I ran up for about 10-15 minutes, warm enough that I could feel that the water was coming out the back, the stat was opening, and I was watching the temperature go up and down on the old real dash. And yeah, I think it's going to be a lot steadier, a lot more consistent now, because it doesn't go up nowhere near as fast as it does normally. So yeah. Oh, the other thing I've done, I've had a haircut. So yeah, don't worry, it has only been a week. Right, just got back from Castle Coombe. Car was pretty faultless the whole day. I had a really good day, lots of sessions out on track. I think I had about 7 or 8 sessions because it's open pit lane. And yeah, the Coolant Reroute worked an absolute dream. I think the highest it peaked when it was just warming up and the stat was opening was about 100, 405, and then dropped back down to under 100 and stayed under 100, you know, every lap after that. So like did 4 or 5 laps in a row, you know, flat out. And it was quite a warm day, and yeah, absolutely, yeah, the car took it really well. Even with my little, like, you know, bodge on the joiner, it'd probably be even better if that had the proper joiner in there. But yeah, absolutely, the fact it stayed below, you know, 100 degrees constantly once the stat open was just, yeah, awesome. The only problem I had was IATs. The actual intake air temperatures was showing pretty high degrees on them, but that's nothing to do with the reroute. That's just the, you know, I haven't got enough airflow to the intercooler, and the intercooler is quite high and it's quite small, so that's something we've got to sort later on. But yeah, in terms of the reroute, super happy with what I've done. Yeah, I recommend that to anyone who's cracking a MX5 or drifting it. Definitely bang a reroute on there, even if you just do a DIY one like I've done, and yeah, you'll definitely notice a difference. So not sure what the next video will be, but keep an eye on the channel, and thanks for watching.